Over the years, incredible discoveries of prehistoric creatures have been found frozen in permafrost, offering us a rare glimpse into life from hundreds of thousands of years ago. From a nematode brought back to life after slumbering for 46,000 years to a pair of mummified lion cubs, these finds are some of the best preserved ancient creatures we've ever seen. Fur, skin, teeth, and even whiskers are still intact. Here are the 12 prehistoric animals found frozen in ice. In the icy grip of Siberia, mammoth tusk hunters stumbled on something that looked more like a sleeping kitten than a long-extinct beast. But this wasn't just any feline. This was Panthera, the Eurasian cave lion. And the cub they found, later named Sparta, had been frozen in perfect condition for approximately 28,000 years. Let that sink in. 28,000 years and her fur still golden, whiskers intact, paw pads soft. Even the internal organs had barely decayed. In fact, scientists called her the best preserved Ice Age animal ever discovered. Sparta was found in 2018 along the Semyuliak River in Yakutia. Cave lions were apex predators, larger and more muscular than modern African lions. Some stood over 1.5 meters at the shoulder and weighed as much as 800 pounds. Unlike the lions of today, they were adapted for cold climates, covered in thick fur, and built with powerful limbs for tackling prey across snowy tundras. And perhaps the most shocking detail is the expressions on their faces. Sparta looks like she's sleeping, lips relaxed, eyes shut, as if she's about to wake up. These cubs prove just how advanced and specialized cave lions were, built for a world now buried under thousands of years of ice and silence. No one expected to find blood, especially not an animal that had been dead for over 42,000 years. But deep in Siberia's Batagika crater, that's exactly what scientists discovered inside the perfectly preserved body of a prehistoric foal. This was no fossil. This was a time capsule with a heartbeat long gone, but evidence of life still written in every cell. The foal belonged to an extinct species called Equus linensis, known as the Lenskaya horse. It lived during the late Pleistocene, an Ice Age predator's playground, when temperatures were brutal and survival meant adaptation. This foal had been barely 2 weeks old, likely falling into soft mud and freezing before decomposition could begin. That accident preserved it so well that even the tiny hairs inside its nostrils remained. What set this horse apart from the ones we know today? For starters, it was more compact, with thicker bones, denser muscles, and a heavier winter coat. It had wide hooves, perfect for plowing through snow and frozen soil. Unlike modern domestic breeds, Equus linensis had no human intervention shaping its evolution, only nature, ice, and time. Genetic analysis has placed this species on a unique branch of the equid family tree. It split off from the ancestors of modern horses around 115,000 years ago. In 2014, a family of hunters in Russia's Yakutia region stumbled across something strange near the Semyuliak River. What they first thought was just another ancient carcass turned out to be the first and only known mummified baby woolly rhinoceros ever found. Radiocarbon dating revealed that Sasha had been buried in the permafrost for approximately 34,000 years. She was just about 7 months old when she died. Yet she already measured nearly 5 feet in length and stood over 2 feet tall at the shoulder. That growth rate tells us something important. Woolly rhinos had to grow fast. In a world where Ice Age predators were everywhere and winters, survival meant getting big quickly. What stunned scientists most wasn't just the preservation, it was the detail. Sasha still had thick, strawberry blonde fur. Her skin, hooves, and even tiny ear folds were intact. Her internal organs were so well preserved that scientists could analyze her lungs, stomach, and even tissue samples for ancient DNA. And before we continue unfolding this fascinating discovery, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Don't forget to share it with your friends too. It helps the channel out, and I'm excited to continue bringing you more awesome content. In 2020, reindeer herders exploring Bolshoi-Lyakhovsky Island in the New Siberian Islands stumbled upon an astonishing sight protruding from the permafrost. An ancient bear, whole and intact. At first, researchers thought it might be a cave bear, a long-extinct Ice Age predator. But as the body thawed and the evidence came into focus, it turned out to be something just as remarkable, a brown bear preserved since the mid-Holocene. They named it the Bolshoi-Aturikan bear, after the nearby Bolshoi-Aturikan River. Estimated to have died around 3,460 years ago, this young female bear was about 2 to 3 years old when she met her end. She stood around 5 feet tall and weighed approximately 170 pounds. And based on trauma found in her spine, it's believed she may have died possibly a fall, or even an encounter with another predator. But what made this discovery so spectacular wasn't just her age, it was the level of preservation. Her nose was intact. Her teeth were complete. Her organs were still soft. Even part of her brain had survived. The scientists who examined her were stunned. This wasn't just a skeleton, it was a mummy of muscle, skin, and bone. Inside her stomach were feathers and plant remains, providing an immediate snapshot of her final days. The remains of small birds and greenery showed that, much like modern brown bears, she was an opportunistic feeder, able to eat both meat and vegetation depending on what was available. Genetic testing revealed she was closely related to modern brown bears that still roam parts of northeastern Russia. She wasn't a disappeared species, but she lived in a time so distant that humans were still building megalithic monuments and forging bronze tools. Along the frozen shores of Antarctica, scientists discovered remarkably well-preserved remains of ancient penguins, kept surprisingly intact by the dry, frigid conditions. Some of these penguin mummies date as far back as 5,000 years ago, long before ancient Egyptians began formal mummification with embalming techniques. In 2016, several ancient Adelie penguin burial sites were uncovered at Cape Irizar, a rocky headland on the Scott coast just south of the Drygalski Ice Tongue in the Ross Sea region of Victoria Land, Antarctica. Among the remains, bones, feathers, and guano, researchers found carcasses poking through recently melted snow and ice that appeared fresh. Radiocarbon dating revealed that the seemingly fresh remains actually came from at least 3 distinct occupation periods by Adelie penguins, the earliest around 5,000 calibrated years before present, and the most recent colony abandonment occurring about 800 calibrated years ago. Thanks to freezing temperatures and long periods of snow cover, the bodies had been preserved as natural mummies, dry, cold, and effectively frozen against microbial decay. The last known penguin occupation of Cape Irizar appears to have ended around the onset of the Little Ice Age, circa 800 years ago, after a warmer period known as the Penguin Optimum. Colder temperatures and increased snow and ice cover likely made the site inhospitable to breeding penguins, leaving the remains buried until recent warming trends and snowmelt exposed them. In 2018, miners in northern Canada uncovered a small tannish brown lump that appeared to be fossilized fur. After further investigation, paleontologists identified it as a perfectly preserved Arctic ground squirrel that lived about 30,000 years ago during the Ice Age. The squirrel, curled up in a tight ball. The squirrel, later nicknamed Hester after nearby Hester Creek, was found in a gold field near Dawson City in the Klondike region of Yukon, close to the Alaskan border. This area has yielded several other well-preserved Ice Age specimens, including giant beavers, a baby mammoth, and a wolf pup. Arctic ground squirrels, which survived the Ice Age, still inhabit Yukon and Alaska today, making them particularly fascinating to scientists. Initially, the lump didn't look like much, but on closer inspection, researchers spotted the squirrel's feet, claws, ears, and tail. After spending thousands of years in permafrost, the remains were too fragile to be uncurled, so researchers turned to a veterinary clinic equipped with an X-ray machine. Despite concerns that the bones might have deteriorated, the scans revealed a surprisingly intact skeleton. But here's what makes this discovery truly remarkable. This little creature represents a direct link to animals that are still alive today. Unlike the extinct species we've seen so far, Arctic ground squirrels continue to thrive in the same harsh environments where Hester was found 30,000 years ago. When a group of miners struck something unusual in the frozen ground near Fairbanks, Alaska in 1979, they expected rock or maybe ice-locked wood. What they uncovered was flesh, thick, cold, heavy, and it was blue. Scientists who examined the remains quickly learned the reason. A rare mineral called vivianite had formed as iron in the bison's decaying tissue reacted with the phosphate-rich soil. That chemical reaction gave the carcass its ghostly blue hue. They named him Blue Babe, a play on the folklore figure Babe the Blue Ox from Paul Bunyan tales. But unlike the legend, this was no myth. Blue Babe was real, and he had been frozen in Alaska's permafrost for nearly 36,000 years. He was a steppe bison, a now extinct giant that once dominated the tundra during the Pleistocene epoch. These animals stood over 6 feet at the shoulder and weighed up to 2,000 pounds. They were built for survival with shaggy coats, thick hides, and powerful muscles made for withstanding cold winds and outrunning Ice Age predators. His skin was still attached to muscle. His ligaments were preserved. His tendons still had elasticity. Even his tongue had survived the freeze. Inside his stomach were traces of his final meal, dry grass, nearly identical to the tundra grass still growing in parts of Alaska today. The cause of death told a violent story. Claw marks and punctures scarred his shoulders and neck, wounds that only a large predator could inflict. Based on the spacing of the marks, researchers believe he was attacked by Ice Age lions. These enormous cats, some weighing over 500 pounds, could bring down prey even as large as a bison. In 2017, deep in the Siberian wilderness along the Sinyaya River, a group of mammoth tusk hunters stumbled on something so bizarre it froze them in their tracks. Lodged in the permafrost was a baby saber-toothed cat, perfectly preserved, tiny claws still curled, whiskers still intact. This was not some fossilized bone or crumbling skeleton. This was a frozen predator cub with a face you could still recognize. Scientists identified it as a species called Homotherium latidens, also known as the scimitar-toothed cat. Think of it as the sleeker, faster cousin of the more famous Smilodon. But unlike Smilodon, Homotherium didn't rely on brute force ambushes. It was built for the chase, muscular limbs, powerful shoulders, and serrated canines shaped like steak knives. And this little cub? It was only about 1 to 2 months old. CT scans revealed the cub's skeleton was fully intact, right down to the tiny ear bones. Its fur, a deep chocolate brown, measured 20 to 30 millimeters in length. Even the paw pads and sharp retractable claws were undamaged. Most remarkably, the skin around its face had not decayed, allowing scientists to see what it looked like in life. Radiocarbon dating placed its death at about 28,000 years ago, in the late Pleistocene. That means this creature walked the earth while humans were sewing clothes with bone needles. And yet, despite the passage of tens of millennia, this cub never decayed. Snow was still falling when a reindeer herder named Yuri Kuti noticed something strange poking out of the ground near the Uribe River in Russia's Yamal Peninsula in 2007. At first glance, it looked like a smooth log wrapped in frost. But when he stepped closer, what he found was not wood, it was skin. That log turned out to be a baby woolly mammoth, so perfectly preserved it still had eyelashes. The calf, later named Lyuba after the herder's wife, had been locked in ice for roughly 42,000 years. She was no more than 30 to 35 days old when she died. Her body had been naturally mummified by the permafrost, and when scientists examined her, they were stunned. Lyuba's eyes were intact. Her trunk had not decomposed. Even the inside of her mouth still held traces of her mother's milk. At about 130 cm in length and 85 cm tall, she was roughly the size of a large dog, but her impact on science was enormous. CT scans and endoscopic studies revealed organs, muscle structure, and bones that looked like they belonged to an animal that had died only yesterday. Her skin was unusually intact thanks to lactic acid-producing bacteria that had invaded her body after death. Essentially, Lyuba had been pickled, preserved from the inside out. Mud was found in her trunk, airway, and lungs, leading experts to believe she suffocated after falling into a muddy riverbank or sinkhole. Her body was quickly sealed off from air and bacteria by the surrounding wet sediment, which helped preserve her in near-perfect condition. Inside her stomach, researchers found partially digested milk, proving she had just been fed before her death. Even more unexpectedly, they also discovered traces of fecal matter in her intestines. That might sound unsettling, but it actually fits with what we see in modern elephants. Baby elephants eat their mother's dung to develop the gut bacteria needed to digest tough vegetation. Liuba had already begun that process, showing how quickly mammoth calves adapted to life in the Ice Age. This microscopic worm, known as a nematode, survived in the Siberian permafrost for an astonishing 46,000 years. The ancient roundworm belongs to a newly described species called Panagrolaemus kolymaiensis. It was found in a fossilized gopher burrow near the Kolyma River in northeastern Arctic Russia in 2002. While scientists were able to resuscitate the frozen nematode in 2018, the exact age and species were unclear until recently. Researchers discovered that this nematode survived in a dormant state for 46,000 years in Siberian permafrost, setting a new record for the longest known cryptobiosis in nematodes. Cryptobiosis is a process where organisms enter a state of suspended animation to survive extreme conditions like freezing or dehydration. This frozen nematode entered cryptobiosis during the late Pleistocene, a period that included the last ice age. The permafrost where it was trapped never thawed, preserving the creature for tens of thousands of years. Scientists compared the genes of Panagrolaemus kolymaiensis and Caenorhabditis elegans, another well-studied nematode species, and found that both shared genes related to cryptobiosis, which helped them cope with dehydration and freezing. It was January 1968 when gold miners working near the Selerikan River in northeastern Siberia struck something solid beneath the ice. It was the body of a horse, perfectly preserved. Skin still clung to muscle, hair still covered the legs, and organs remained sealed inside a chest that had stopped breathing tens of thousands of years ago. This was the Selerikan horse, the stallion frozen in time for more than 30,000 years. This was a mature adult, roughly 7 to 8 years old, standing about 135 cm at the shoulder. It belonged to an extinct species known as Equus linensis, a tough, thick-set cousin of modern horses that once roamed the Pleistocene tundra of Eurasia. Inside its stomach, scientists found ancient grasses, twigs of dwarf willow, and sedges, an Ice Age menu that revealed exactly what the horse had eaten before it died. Its teeth showed signs of wear consistent with grazing. Even the shape of its hooves told a story. This horse had used its feet to paw through snow and uncover food, just like the modern Yakutian horses that still live in northern Russia. The position of the body and several broken bones suggest it may have fallen into a bog or become trapped in unstable ground. The freezing Siberian climate took over from there, halting decay, sealing skin, and preserving this powerful animal for over 30,000 years. Its coat was likely light bay or dun with darker markings on the mane and legs, a coloration that would have helped it blend into the snow-dusted steppe. These horses were short but rugged, built for endurance more than speed, with thick builds and low metabolic demands ideal for the brutal cold of the late Pleistocene. What makes the Selerikan horse so important isn't just its preservation, it's its DNA. Genetic analysis showed that, like the Lena horse, it had split off from the lineage of modern horses over 115,000 years ago, representing a lost branch of the horse family tree. Gold miners in the Yukon were expecting treasure, but in 2016, while working in the Klondike gold fields near Dawson City, they uncovered the mummified remains of a baby wolf. She was curled up as if napping, with fur, skin, tiny teeth, and even whiskers preserved. She was named Zur, meaning wolf in the Han language spoken by the Tiarandek Wet'chen First Nation. Radiocarbon dating placed her at about 57,000 years old, making her the most complete Ice Age wolf ever discovered. Zur was only 7 weeks old when she died. The state of her bones and tissues suggests she perished suddenly, most likely when her den collapsed. Rapid burial and permafrost preserved her body in exceptional condition. Her eyes were missing, but almost everything else remained: dense fur, muscles still wrapped around her skeleton, and internal organs largely intact. Analysis of her teeth and isotopes in her hair revealed an unexpected diet. Instead of relying mainly on mammoths, bison, and other large prey, Zur's food included a significant amount of fish, especially salmon. This indicates her mother hunted near rivers or scavenged during seasonal fish runs, reshaping our understanding of Pleistocene wolf ecology. Genetic studies showed Zur did not belong to any modern wolf lineage. She was part of a now extinct population that roamed Beringia, the Ice Age landmass connecting Russia, Alaska, and Canada. These wolves were genetically distinct from modern populations, likely replaced after climatic shifts and extinction events. Zur's preserved body also revealed physical traits of Ice Age wolves: thick, insulating fur, robust bones, and developing sharp teeth that reflected the rapid growth needed to survive in a harsh environment. These 12 discoveries represent more than just scientific curiosities. Which of these prehistoric discoveries amazed you the most? Let me know in the comments below if you think scientists should attempt to bring any of these species back to life using their preserved DNA. And if you want to see more incredible discoveries from the past, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos about the mysteries hidden in our planet's ice. Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.